Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 154 of the Mo Money Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Morehouse. Thanks for joining me for another episode. I'm so excited to have you with me. I am pumped for this next episode because he was someone that I got to meet in person at FinCon. Man, do I say that a lot, but it is what it is. It's where all the money nerds in the world go. And we were actually speaking on a panel back in October. It was in October. And his name is Jim Wang. He is the brains behind Wallet Hacks. But before that, he actually started a blog called Bargaineering, which I remember when I first started reading personal finance blogs back in the day in like the mid 2000s or, goodness, that sounds mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s. What year is it? 2018? Oh my gosh. Doesn't that freak you out, anybody, that it's 2018? It freaks me out. Anyway, anywho, bargaining was huge, so huge that he was able to sell it for a good chunk of money and basically early retire. And now he started another website called Wallet Hacks that is doing really well. And so I just kind of basically just ask him a bunch of questions about all of the hacks that he talks about on his website and just like, what are some just like good tips, tried and true kind of methods that people can take action on. I know a lot on the podcast we talk about, kind of theory or a mindset or psychology and just like, feelings and like, because I do really like that stuff. And at the end of the day, I do feel like personal finance is way more than dollars and cents and numbers and math and stuff. But sometimes it's also nice to get a refresher on like, hey, what are some of those, strategies or, methods that people use to actually see a difference in their, budget or their bank account, or how can they save money? What are some things that I can implement today? So that is kind of what this episode is all about. So I know you're going to like it. But before I get to that episode with the wonderful Jim Wang, here's just a few words about this episode's sponsor. Freelancers and small business owners, I feel you. Tax season is in full swing, and I bet there's a good chance that many of you are trying to dig your way out from underneath a pile of receipts and spreadsheets. Do yourself a huge favor and stop digging. Before you completely disappear under that abyss of paperwork, go and check out Freshbooks cloud accounting software. Not only is it going to save you a ton of time and stress, it might actually change the way you feel about dealing with your taxes. Need to send your accountant a quick summary on the amount of tax you've collected last year? How about pulling together a profit and loss summary? FreshBooks can generate these reports in seconds instead of the hours it would take you to do them manually. You can even set up FreshBooks to import expenses directly from your bank accounts, which means next time you use your debit card for that meal, tank of gas, or new computer, boom, the purchase is recorded instantly into FreshBooks. All this and FreshBooks is ridiculously easy to use. It's made especially for people who don't like dealing with numbers and their taxes. And right now, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day unrestricted free trial to my listeners. To claim it, just go to freshbooks.com/MO and enter Mo Money Podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Once again, that's freshbooks.com/MO and enter Mo Money Podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Hey, Jim, thank you so much for joining me on the Mo Money Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. It was so nice to get to meet you in person at FinCon and be on that panel with you. That was a lot of fun. So I'm so glad that now we actually get like a good chat, just you and me on the show. We have a lot to chat about. You were a little bit late, but you know what? Fashionably late. It was fashionably late. But basically how I kind of got to know you was Tanya from Our Next Life was like, oh, Jim's going to be on the panel. He's kind of a big deal. And like, she was serious. So I'm like, oh, if he's a big deal, I need to talk to him. I need to get him on my show.
Not big enough. No, not at all.
Well, I think the reason she says that is, so you have been in the blogging game for quite a while. Like when did you start exactly?
I think it was 2004 or 5.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Is that like before WordPress was a thing?
It was. So back then you had to install it yourself.
Oh
there was still the world, they call the world famous one-click install. They still had that, but you had to download it and you had to edit your config file.
Wow.
like let it know where the database was. But then it was just one click. And
Wow.
it's actually one of the reasons why I started a blog was because it was that easy. I mean, it sounds hard now. You have to download it. You have to do all that stuff. When today, all you do is you sign up with a host and you literally, again, you click one button and they'll install it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, this will be fun. This is easy. It's like keeping a journal and, I could read it at work, or really write it at work.
Yeah.
Okay, not really write it at work.
I'm pretty sure all bloggers have totally written their blogs, including myself, at work. You're like, no, I'm totally.
Yeah, but
you just have no. But now that I work for myself, I can totally say it.
That's true. I guess I can say it.
Yeah, no one's gonna. Who's gonna care? Who's gonna know?
Yeah. Yeah, but the idea was, they gave me like this manual of like the 401k and these are your retirement options and insurance.
Yeah.
I was like, I have no idea what's going on. So I like a nerd, I took notes. It's because
I like that.
To translate from their like legalese speech to me later, I'm like, I don't want to read this again and like try to understand it again. Here's how I would have written it. And then so I decided I'd start a blog, not because I was writing for anybody else, but that I could write it at home or whatever and read it at work and really write it at work and at home. And just kind of how it started. And it was just for me and then for like a few of my friends, because they'd be like, oh, when you read this, what did you say? And rather than I didn't really want to like talk about it for like half an hour about 401k, whatever. I'm like, I wrote about it.
Here you go.
You read it and then we can talk about it. So we can skip that like 30 minutes where I probably get it wrong. I've gotten plenty of things wrong. That's actually one of the great things about having a blog is you write what you think. And then people tell on the internet, they're very happy to tell you that you're wrong about what you think. And sometimes you are, as you misinterpret something or whatever. And so it's been educational sort of on both sides. But yeah, 2004 or 5, I can't even remember. It's been so long.
I love that you started it just with, you wanted to educate yourself and some friends and why not? And now, I mean, it's 2018 now. That's insane.
Yeah. Because no one thought like blogs were a thing. It was like I ate a banana.
And it was kind of like more of a journal thing.
Yeah. So it's worked out.
Yeah. Well, even when I started mine at the end of 2011, before that, like a couple years before that, I didn't know anyone actually still had a blog because it was, in my mind, blogging was just like the live journal days where people would just talk about their day. And I'm like, I don't care about that. And so when I was getting more interested in personal finance and very much, the same as you, I started working. I had no idea about anything and didn't want to be broke anymore. My sister told me, oh, there's some blogs out there. I'm like, people talk about this on blogs? And then I'm like, oh, it's a whole different thing now. That's interesting. And now it's 2018 and people are still blogging. I remember when I first started my blog, everyone's like, oh, blogs are so over. No, they're not.
Everything's always over. There's always like the new thing that's exciting. And there's always going to be a new exciting thing, but people still read. Like as much as they say, oh, the Kindle and ebooks are going to kill regular books. Like people still read regular books. Now it's not as convenient as having, all the books that you would want, but really you only read one book at a time. And there's something nice about just like, you just open it up and if you drop it, you're not really all that upset if you dropped your book. Like I guess the Kindle's real cheap now.
Yeah, I know. It's but back in the day it was like, oh my gosh, don't ruin your,
Yeah. But still like writing, people will always read, and some people just like reading better than like video. Like you can't watch a video at work.
No, right? You can't. It's but true.
You can secretly read
all the blogs at work, which I totally used to do, and I didn't watch any video. And then when podcasts started becoming more popular, I'm like, oh, I can listen to those at work. So maybe I should look into that. So was that first blog Bargaineering? Is that what it was?
That was it.
And how long did you have it? And then at a certain point, you had the opportunity to sell it, which is, pretty cool.
I had it 5 years.
Wow.
And I was only working on it sort of, after work on weekends for the first 3. And then I was able to quit my job, work on it full time for 2.
Wow.
And then, what's funny is, so in high school, I had to get tutoring for writing. So my background's in software engineering and like typical stereotypical like engineering nerd, like good with numbers. I wasn't really that good with numbers. I was just better than average with the numbers. And I was not at all good at writing.
Yeah.
And so I had a tutor for writing. And I remember telling my dad, like, oh, I was working a very good job in defense, like very stable, like, one of those careers you can be in for 30 plus years, retire, have a great life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to do this blogging thing. And first of all, my dad's like, what's the internet? And the second thing, he actually, he said these words that like scared me to the core. He was like, are you sure?
Oh, I know.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm sure. That's actually the only thing he said. He said, are you sure? I was like, I was until you asked me.
No, I'm like, do you know something I don't?
And then I was like, yeah, no, I think I'm sure. I think I know. I figured out how it works. And this will be good. He's like, okay, I trust you. And I was like, all right, do it.
Worst comes to worst, you could have found another job, right?
Worked out. Yeah. One of the nice things is in defense, you have security clearances and all that. And those are really hard to get. And granted, once you leave, they immediately expire. But since you've gone through that process of having your history checked, you're more likely to get approved if you were approved the first time. And so that was always a good fallback. Plus, I kind of liked my job. It was fun. It was working on interesting things and working with good people. And so I left, and they knew I was leaving because I'd started my own thing. They didn't know that I had my own thing for 3 years at the time. But it was just one of those, if things don't work out or you want to come back or you want to whatever, let us know. And so it was always open.
That's nice.
That made it a lot easier.
Definitely. I can't believe you were able to kind of keep that secret and hidden from your coworkers for so long. Like, I don't know how lots of bloggers do that. I couldn't. I just like, I've got a
blog. well, here's what's interesting is my friends knew. Like, and so the places that I worked were so big that I rarely worked in the same office or the same organization as my friends. And it would usually not come up in like a group conversation. And because it's like, oh, Jim has an internet journal. Or like, like whatever, who cares? And so that part never came up. And so I also remember back then, Facebook started in like 2005, 6, I don't even know. But back then it wasn't big. Colleges, Twitter wasn't around. Like social media isn't what it is today. Where
I know. I remember those days being on MySpace.
MySpace, that's right. Everyone's friends with, what was it, Tom?
Yes, everyone was friends with Tom. Oh.
And so like it wasn't socially, people like, they might have known that I had a blog, but it wasn't like a big, in front of everybody type of thing. Today, it's hard to escape. Like if you have a blog, people have to use pseudonyms and like not show their faces, and especially early retirement when they're, you're worried that if they find out that you want to retire early, that maybe you're not bought into the cause or the mission or the whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot harder now. But back then, I started my blog, and because I'd shared like my budget, I'd gotten into the New York Times. Like 5 months in. It was amazing. It's awesome. None of my friends had any idea. Granted, I'm in Maryland, and the New York Times, it's a national
Everyone
newspaper.
knows New York Times. It's huge.
Yeah, but
I'm in Canada. I know what that is.
No, I'm not saying they don't know it. I'm just saying no one like picks it up and reads it.
Right.
Like when you're in Maryland, it's not like in New York where it's like in every coffee house, whatever. Here, it's like, if you want to buy it at the store, it's like $8.
Yeah.
And it was like in a Sunday, or no one had any idea. And here I am going, I'm in the New York. I grew up in New York. Yeah. So this was like a big deal. And I knew it was like the Sunday money, like fluff piece. I didn't care. I didn't care that I was fluff. I was super stoked and excited. But nowadays, like you can be in like your local newspaper. Not saying local newspaper is bad, but much smaller geographic reach. And everybody, your friends in California, your friends in Canada will know. Like everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's just a different world.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's very hard to be anonymous. You really can't. Like, there's just too much information out there on the internet. People will find out who you are, which is a big reason why I just took the risk. I'm like, I'm just going to not be an anonymous. But I did do kind of full disclosure at my old job, or, a couple jobs ago or whatever, being like, hey, I have a blog. Also, I'm like, I was pretty junior, so I'm like, I don't really care if you don't like it. I can find another job, and you probably don't care because I'm junior, so I think it's fine. That's awesome. So you started bargaineering. It kind of took off clearly because you were able to go full time, which is incredible. And especially like go full time. It seems like in a time where lots of people didn't do that. It seems like a little bit more popular that's everyone's kind of dream is to start a blog, make money, and then just walk into the sunset. I know, which is like, so far from the truth. So why did you end up selling it and then starting Wallet Hacks?
Well, so what was interesting is that around that time, a lot of other blogs were getting sold, and they were being bought up by, these big corporations that I thought knew what they were doing.
Right.
And I was afraid I was just eventually just going to get squeezed out. And here, I'm one of the things, you said, oh, they're going to, you quit your job, work on your own thing. It's like, I mean, it's great because whatever you make, you keep all of it.
Yeah.
But then when you don't make anything, there's no like salary that backs you up in those lean moments. So there was the worry, at least in my mind, okay, I've built this thing up. I kind of fell into it anyway. And here are all these other, my peers, like Get Rich Slowly, a 5-cent nickel. They were all getting snapped up. I was like, what if I'm, I was kind of like, what if I'm left holding the bag? Like, what if in a year I look around like, here, someone said, I'll give you whatever for your blog. And I said, no, I'm going to go it alone. I'm going to keep going. And then I look back and go, I should have. And, it's
the FOMO, basically, total FOMO.
It's FOMO, but it's also like life-changing money.
Yeah.
Right. When you sell something for 7 figures, like, it's always great to sell it for 8 figures, for whatever.
Is that how much you were able to sell it for? Then take that money and run.
Yeah. And it changes what you're able to do for the rest of your life.
100%.
And so, I was just like, this had a good run. I'd been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of that sort of blogging burnout.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing the same things over and over again. And so that sort of drove the decision. And looking back, not regretful at all. So why did I start Wallet Hacks, which is essentially the same thing? Is because I had like a 5-year break.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm still in what got me interested in money still interests me. I'm still learning about it, maybe about different aspects of it, maybe less about the frugality and more about investing and sort of that end of it. But I always kind of like figuring things out. And sort of the Wallet Hacks idea was like sort of hacking my way through money and understanding things the way I like it. Plus, it gives me something to do, and I enjoy it. It feels more like a game than it is work. And so that's kind of why I got back into it. Also, I'd started other businesses in the interim because one of the things about when you sell something is that you can't just jump right back in. They frown on that. And so I started a couple other businesses that were fun, but not to the degree that I enjoyed blogging.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I'll just get back into it, and things are going well. So I'm really happy.
Yeah. Well, I think you probably have a knack for blogging, so that helps.
Yeah.
Not everyone can, anyone can start a blog, but it's not everyone can make one that's so successful like you did with Barganeering. Especially you had like no background in, I'm assuming, real finance or marketing or websites, and that you were able to build it to what it was. So that's pretty special.
Yeah. What's always fun is with blogs. Actually, what's always funny about blogging is that you need to do it long enough for the success to happen. But if you're looking for the success early, you'll quit.
Yeah.
Too fast because it just doesn't show up. Like Barganeering didn't make any money for the first year. Right. But it had done some things that got me excited about it to keep doing it, like getting in the New York Times.
Yeah.
That didn't result in, I think AdSense, it resulted like $20 in AdSense, which was a ton back then. Because I was looking at like 0 to 5 to 10 cents a day.
Yeah.
So that was already exciting. But next to my salary, I was making $60,000 a year as a software developer. Like $20 a day doesn't really, like, I'm not.
I could buy groceries with that, you know?
But I was like, it got me excited to keep doing it, that and enjoying it. And to the point where it got big enough to support, a full-time income. And a lot of times bloggers quit before that because they're looking, they started a blog to make money. And after a year, when they have it, they're like, maybe I got to do something else. And maybe that's right. Maybe they should be doing something else. But a year is probably not long enough to learn anything to the degree where you could, make a living off it anyway. So why would blogging be something where you're like, I've done it for a year. I should be, it's like, I started playing golf about a year ago. I think I should be able to make money off golfing now.
Exactly.
Right? So it's,
I know. And that's what I tell everybody who comes up to me like, oh, I'm going to start a vlog or a podcast. I'm like, okay, I mean, you do you. But for me, I think the reason I'm still in this is because I've been doing this for like, cumulatively 6 years. I'm in it quite deep. So it's hard to get out now. But I don't know, like, if I known how much time and effort it would have taken me to get to where I am, I don't know if I would have done it, quite honestly. Yeah.
But it's a fun process if you're able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And now you have wallet hacks, which I really, really like. Kind of like you said, yeah, there's lots of great hacks, just like actionable things to do, which I think is great because a lot of vlogs I find, which is, there's nothing wrong with them, do talk more about mindset or just like feelings with money and stuff. Sometimes you're just like, I just want to like how do I optimize this and this? So I want to kind of actually like start off with that because I really like there's a section on your website about just like specific hacks to look into. Lots of them, honestly, I've never heard of before. So I want to kind of start off with one that I would like to know what it is.
Okay.
What's the secret Santa hack? What is that?
Oh. So it's funny. So you had emailed me that list of the different hacks. That was actually the one that I didn't look at. It's funny.
You know what? Let's move on.
No, actually, so this is what we do. This is what I think it is.
Okay.
First of all, since I wrote it, I should remember what it is.
You know what? That's totally.
I think it's the one where we do the white elephant. No, it's the white elephant one where you don't, instead of like, so you have like a. Okay, here's there are two parts of this actually. Now that I think about it, so when you have like a large family and you're buying gifts for everyone, it's like why buy? You can, if you have the means, to buy gifts for everybody, right? You want to get the problem is that gets expensive. So what a lot of families, including ours, we do like a secret Santa where you only have to buy one gift and everybody has fun with it. Yeah, and it's not like you have to get a gift for every single person because right now we have the means where if we wanted to give a gift to everybody, it's like, yeah, you could do that. I mean, it's a lot harder because you have to think of a good gift. Yeah. But it also costs a lot. But if you do Secret Santa and you have to think for one person, then that's far easier. And it saves you money, especially for, younger folks in your family who, you probably don't want someone who's just newly got married, whatever, to have to buy gifts for all the aunts and uncles and whatever. Then the other thing is you can do like a white elephant type of like gag gift. It's still like the fun aspect of, you'll probably still get gifts for like the family members that are super close, but maybe like brothers-in-laws and things like that, maybe skip out on it and just stick with the white elephant. And then really gifts are about like having fun and like showing love and all that. It's not necessarily about spending as much money as you can and like making sure the gift that you get someone is the same that they get you and blah, blah, blah. So that hack was something that I didn't come up with. My friend told me that their family did. And they said it can be a little challenging to implement because if you have family members, especially like grandparents who will buy, retired or whatever, they have the means, they just want to buy gifts or let them buy gifts or whatever, but still do the Secret Santa. And it's a lot of fun for everyone. And then the younger folks who don't or can't really spend that much don't, feel like they have to put themselves 100%. Out to do it. Yeah,
that's what me and my family does. So it's I've got my parents, my two sisters, my husband, and my sister has a husband. So there's no kids yet. So I think maybe that's where maybe it'd get a little bit more tricky. But now that we're all adults, and honestly, it's like we have to spend money on the flight home and all this stuff. We just talked. We're like, listen, can we just do a gift exchange? It'll be easier on everyone, less stressful too. And yeah, so far it's been good. In general, it's been okay to implement. I'd say my younger sister feels a little bit gypped because she's in her mind, she got less gift getting years. And I'm like, oh my God, but whatever. But in general, yeah, like it's great. It doesn't make my Christmas any less good. If anything, I think we try to focus more on, okay, not putting so much focus on the gifts. Let's make sure we're all like contributing to like making Christmas dinner, playing board games or whatever. Okay, good. Yeah. Well, that's an easy one for anyone to do. All right. So next on my list is I wrote down Amazon.com. Did you have a hack for Amazon? I think that'd be interesting to know.
I have a lot.
Oh, do you?
A lot of them are now well known, and they were probably pretty well known back then, but it was the Post has, I don't know how many, but there are a ton. And it's just over time, you just accumulate like better ways of spending money on Amazon. And one of them was, so we have Prime.
Yes.
You get free 2-day shipping,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll bribe you if you're willing to accept it for slower. And I started taking all of the bribes, and then realizing the bribe was the one that I really like, and actually the only one I take is the $1 off digital items, but they stack. So you essentially accumulate this wallet of $1 things that you can just spend on whatever, and that includes like downloadable PlayStation games.
Mm-hmm.
So like the games that are like $60, I've been getting for free because we order a lot of stuff from Amazon, and we'll do things like order one item at a time as we need it, which is probably what they want you to do. Like as I think of, I need this particular thing, but I don't want to go to Home Depot to get it, or
right.
I don't go to the local store. I'm willing to wait a week to get whatever screwdriver part, whatever, and they'll give me $1, and then I can spend it later when I go buy like a video game or like TV shows and Prime, like movies and things like that. So it's we just accumulated. When Amazon didn't have a distribution center in Maryland, they have to collect sales tax on all of the sales that go into an area where they have a nexus. And you could go online and you could search all of the second or the third party sales of people selling things and find the ones that were outside of your state. Now they'll even show you which ones will charge you tax and which won't. And then you can really like compare and contrast. It'll only save you a couple dollars, but if it takes just like a second or two.
And if again, like everything's cumulative, like that could be, roll into quite a few. That's interesting that you do that. Because I thought, kind of one hack that lots of people like to think is like, I order more than one item to get free shipping if you're not on Amazon Prime. But really, that just encourages you to buy more stuff that you may not need. Like, do you think like Amazon Prime is actually worth it? I guess like you said, if you do purchase a lot of items from it, and it seems like now you can order anything from Amazon.
Yeah, we'll just buy like little things because we're not that far from stores or anything. Like we're not out in the woods, but these are all like little chores around the house that if you had everything, you could go do it in like 10 minutes. But if you had to go get the actual part that you needed, it now becomes like a 1 hour thing. And then a 1 hour thing is like, I'll just do it some other time. But if you order it and it gets here in a week, you get $1 for it. And you're like, this works out. And Amazon is cheaper. Yeah. It's cheaper than going to the store. So you save money on both ends, not having to drive and getting a cheaper part.
That's true.
So.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely look that article and link it in the show notes because I'm sure there's a bunch of other interesting hacks and everyone's all about Amazon these days. So one thing I actually really wanted to talk about because I thought this was really interesting, especially since me and my husband now have done it for a year. And I'm like, I think we'll probably do this forever now is on your site, you mentioned that you have tracked your spending and your net worth for the past 14 years. Is that true? And how did you start doing that? I think that's one, like, it's so simple, but most people don't even think to do it because I think it's a lot of work and effort and annoying.
So in the beginning, I actually started because a friend suggested it. And she gave me her spreadsheet that she had used, and she called it her budget Bible. So I kept that. I kept budgeting up until maybe around 5 years where I just recorded every single transaction. And eventually that got a little too cumbersome, and I stopped learning all that much about because you get to the point where when you first start making a full-time income, your money can easily just like walk out the door when you're
for sure.
You go out with friends, whatever, and next thing you know, you're like, how did I spend $300 this past month on just going to bars whatever. So but after a few years you kind of get into a rhythm and what's happening, and at that point some of the tools like Mint and that added a little more automation. So you didn't have to record everything, started coming in. And so I used that for a couple of years, but I never pulled that data into the spreadsheet. The net worth stuff I tracked, and it's only once a month. And it's just essentially just an accounting of all the balances. And in the beginning, there were not that many balances. It was like my 401k, a Roth IRA, and then like a checking account, maybe like 2 checking accounts. And so I just kept doing it, and over time, every month, just going in and recording it. And I, you start pulling in some tools, like start using Personal Capital when they released, because they pulled in all of the data into one place, so I didn't have to log in every point. It's just adding just more automation to keep life a lot simpler. One of the things actually not related to recording transactions was credit cards started allowing you to get transaction notifications like near instantly.
Wow.
And I would get it set up on all my credit cards for anything over $1 or $0, whichever, they all have different systems. But what's funny is, when they talk about, using a credit card, you get disconnected from the transaction process.
You do.
A little bit. It's not like real money. Well, when you get emails or text messages every time there's a charge, it like kind of reminds you of that, like things are happening, especially like recurring bills that you may not understand, your cell phone or whatever. And it's actually shockingly fast. Like I would be at a restaurant, pay for something, and before I got back, I would already have an email. Like before the card came back, and I was like, "Oh, so how do they do the tip?" Like, kind of happens later. It just kind of figures itself out.
Yeah,
and it was very enlightening to watch because, and I think this is what happens when people, I've talked or emailed with folks that have had Quicken accounts, which is sort of like the budgeting tool from like 20 years ago, and they've had it for 20 years, and they don't want to quit it because they have all that data. I fortunately was just using an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But you go back, you see sort of like the evolution of your financial life, like the accounts that come in, the different things, and it's been fun and educational. Like you learn like how like the most minor decisions you made as a kid have had such a huge impact as a kid. Like I say that as when I did it. No, I was like 20 something. It was 14 years ago. But like saving into a 401k, and now the 401k balance is enormous.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, I just didn't even, I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, I'll just put in whatever I'm supposed to put in. And now, years later, after not paying attention to it, it's not completely not paying attention to it, but not like really.
But not worrying about it. Yeah.
Your 401k is not somewhere where you like log in and like play around or whatever.
No.
It's like you just have it there. You like make sure everything's okay. You rebalance it once a year, maybe once every couple of years, depending on how on top of it you are. But you just kind of leave it alone and it grows. And you're like, whoa, look at that.
It's nice to have that actual evidence because like every financial book or blog talks about, start investing early because, you'll start at this amount and then in 20 years, you'll be at the $1 million mark. You're like, yeah, sure. But if you actually have the data, you're like, oh, it's true. It works. No, I'm the same as you. Once we started really tracking everything, we're like, oh, we thought we knew about our money. And we really didn't know this much. And there's so many questions that pop up that now we have the data to look like, hey, so how much did we actually contribute to our investments and how much did it actually grow? Or how much interest did we actually earn on our savings accounts? And all these other questions pop up. Whereas before we would just never know how to figure that out. Now it's like, oh, we have all the data, we can look really granular and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty, motivating, I would say.
One of the interesting things that I added a couple of years ago was I took all of our tax information. So I just took so in the US, you have the Form 1040. We just took a couple line items. There were probably like 12 or 13 of them. It was like total income, adjusted gross income, and then taxes, the different things. And we looked how our tax rates would change over the years and how as we've done more less like wage income and more business and investment, how the tax rates have gone down significantly. And it just shows us that, maybe the tax situation isn't necessarily skewed favorably for some folks compared to others. But then also like when you start off and you think to yourself, okay, I'm making money, but I'm also being taxed the most. How do I be the most efficient? I need to save as much as I can and move it into investments where it can not only grow without my direct intervention, but that it'll be taxed favorably. Because, when in your retirement, you kind of want that nest egg to be as big as possible.
Exactly.
And if you need to keep working and it gets taxed at, income rates, like that's not something that's really sustainable. And it's hard to know that when you're 20 something.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're like, oh, I got a paycheck. This is way more money, than I need. Why don't I have fun with it? I deserve it. When in reality, you should think, well, when I'm 60 something, what do I want the scenario to look like? And so seeing, the data change over 14 years, it kind of solidifies like, why I had a revelation a couple years ago about life insurance. It's like, why does it get so much more expensive when you're like 30 or you're 35? It's not because you're any riskier when you're 30 or 35 compared to 25 or 20. It's that on a 30-year term, it ends when you're 65 if you start at 35. You know, the cost isn't in the 30, you know, when you're 31, 32, 30. It's when you're 58, 59, 60.
Yep.
That's really how people should be thinking about the money that they're earning in their 20s. And we don't, because granted, like, you know, we just don't have that long-term view, and we think everything will be fine.
It's hard to think that far into the future, you know? But yeah. So
I don't know if that got too deeply philosophical.
No, I liked
14
it.
years of tracking.
No, I think that is so amazing, because I feel like there's not too many people out there. There's just so many, you know, hypothetical examples. I don't think I've ever really heard a real person who's been like, no, I've actually been tracking my, you know, everything for 14 years. I have the data. And basically it seems like what you're kind of saying is a lot of the principles that are kind of promoted, like, you know, investing, kind of like that get rich slowly kind of mentality, and just like not fiddling around. It seems like what you do for investing is kind of the kind of index passive investing kind of thing, where you just rebalance yourself and all that. All that stuff is actually, that works. I really liked your hack actually about the getting a notification every time you spend something on your credit card. So simple. I've never even thought of that. And one of my issues big time when it comes to spending is spending with my credit card, because I'll do something, and in that moment, like 5 seconds later, I'll forget that. Or sometimes, and I think this is a thing that lots of people do, they will get to, you know, the terminal, and they won't even really look at how much it is. You know, they'll just be like, yeah, whatever, tap or swipe or whatever, which is a big problem. Yeah. We should be more cognizant of what we're spending our money on.
It was also good. So I started doing it to try to combat fraud. Right? 'Cause,
that's smart.
You know, they say, oh, you should check your credit card bills and whatever. And I do, but they're all auto paid.
Yeah.
It's all set up. So sometimes I did. Sometimes I go for like a couple months. And then I read this article about this guy who had been scammed. But since he paid off the bill, like a lot of his recourse was removed, because I guess by virtue of auto paying, you're accepting the charges, and so it's hard to then fight it. And he had it on auto pay, and I have it on auto pay. So I was like, oh well, I don't want to take off auto pay, but I kind of want to know. So I set it up, and then a couple months into it, there was some notification of like a $2.99 charge that I had no idea what it was, and it was fraudulent. And I'm almost 100% sure that if I went and looked at my credit card bill every single, I probably would not have saw the $2.99.
No, you're like, I don't know, maybe I just forgot what I bought, whatever.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, this like I went to some no, but if you get it immediately on your phone, and I'm like sitting at my house,
you're like, no, I didn't
there's
do that.
No way, I didn't just buy that at some store, whatever. And so, you know, I just go on and just challenge the transaction, and it worked for its purpose, and I've had it since. And so far, you know, knock on wood, it hasn't happened again. Yeah,
that's awesome. I have like the opposite experience. I'll always like, you know, diligently look at my spending and my credit card, and sometimes when I see something, oh, I don't know what that is, and I'll assume it's fraudulent, and most of the time it's just me.
That's why most if you get it instantaneously.
But to be fair, it's like you don't get in trouble for calling your credit card to be like, "Can you verify this?" or like, "What exactly is this?" Like, case in point, recently, like me and my husband flew back from Vancouver to Toronto after our holiday vacation, and we flew WestJet, and then I looked at my credit card a month later, and WestJet says like WestJet $30 going to Calgary, or it said in Calgary. I'm like, wait, I didn't go to Calgary. I didn't buy anything for $30 through WestJet. So I called the credit card company, and they're like, oh yeah, so WestJet specifically, they sometimes do lump like charges with all their clients. So sometimes they bill you a month later. I'm like, oh, so yeah, that was me. But they were so close to being like, oh, well, we'll take care of this. And then I'm like, oh, wait. No, that was me.
I don't understand why those line items in credit cards aren't more descriptive.
I know. It's like, tell me what it is. Like, I had an idea who spends like $30 in a flight. I'm like, well, someone definitely bought booze.
Yeah. But if they bill you a month later, like, how are you supposed to know?
I know. It's like, I have no idea what this is. And like, we didn't go anywhere. I was at home. Yeah. But no, I think I'm going to set that up just to have more consciousness. Because I think the tricky thing too is, although tracking my spending is great, I do it basically at the end of the month. So it's kind of like, well, I know everything that happened to my money after the fact. So it'd be nice to have some kind of more real-time information. So within that month, you can kind of change some of your spending habits.
Yeah. And you'll be shocked. Well, you might not be, but
I might be shocked. Probably.
I meant the speed at which the transactions happen.
Like, I probably would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, wow, the person didn't even, the wait staff hadn't even come back with the little billfold thing, and it was already emailed. I was like, all right.
That's insane.
That's pretty good.
Okay. So we're kind of, I guess we can talk a lot. So I'm going to, because I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been talking for almost 40 minutes. So before I let you go, I just want to kind of pick your brain because, again, you were kind of the hack master. But also you have a lot more information, I think, than I do when it comes to like maybe good financial apps to use. There's a lot more in the States than in Canada. What are some of your favorite ones? It does seem like, do you still kind of do lots of things manually, but or which apps do you actually use or really like to recommend?
So I put everything in Excel, but I pull the data using Personal Capital because they're the one that has probably the most easy to use tools.
Is Personal Capital a bank? That might be a dumb question, but I don't know.
Personal Capital they're like wealth management.
Okay.
They're like one of the new fintech startups. I don't know how they're actually many years old, like 4 or 5 years. But what they do is they will give you like a financial dashboard so you can pull in all your accounts and they will call you about managing money and things like that. But the tool itself is free. They have
that's nice.
like retirement planners that can help you like chart out if you need X dollars in the future and you anticipate. So like different calculators, things like that. I use it mostly to get sort of a snapshot of everything in one place. And that's good. One that I haven't started using, but I've heard good things about is Tiller.
Tiller
is they're like an automation tool that will pull data into spreadsheets. And so
right now, I like that.
I think they have plans to pull into Excel. And I've been using Excel for 14 years, so I just kind of kept it all there. And part of it is I like keeping it manually elsewhere because it's kind of like when you take notes. Like it's one thing to type it out. It's another to handwrite it. Like it's just like an extra step. And I'm not going to handwrite my records.
My God, no. But I hear you. It becomes, you think about it more when you kind of do it manually. When you automate too much, then again, just like your credit card, you'll be like, I forgot what I did. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
So I usually use Personal Capital. I don't do that much budgeting anymore. When I did, it used to be Mint. Personal Capital also, they started as an investing thing, then they pulled in some budgeting, but I haven't used it that much. Other than that, it's just like the apps on your phone that access the banks and whatnot. Like
so kind of just keep it simple.
Yeah. I've played with a lot of different tools, but none of them are really, they're not that much different. So I just
I kind of agree. Like, I think it's cool to test out and see what works for you. But for me, like you, I do everything manually with spreadsheets. And it's not because I don't like any of the other apps. It's just none of them made me think more about my money than me really like taking notes and putting it in, my nicely formatted Excel spreadsheet and then having that, one-on-one meeting with my husband so we could talk about our money each month. Yeah. It's like simple and old school, but it works.
It's like tailored suits or whatever, right? Like, it takes a lot more time and effort to get it up and running. But once you do, and it's perfectly tailored to what you need and you're familiar with it, then it just comes down to how do I make it faster by pulling in data or looking at one place instead of 20 different places.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, Cool. Well, thanks, Jim, for taking some time to chat with me. I had a great time.
That's it?
That's it. We talked for a while. I just like looked at the clock. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're an interesting guy, I guess.
You're interesting too. This was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. Well, you're welcome back anytime. And where can people find more information about you after this episode?
I think just come to wallethacks.com. They can shoot me an email, jim@wallethacks.com.
Ooh, that's nice of you.
Yeah. I will reply, I hope.
I mean, if it's
No,
a
I'll
mean
reply.
email, I won't. But if it's a nice one, yes.
Oh, I'm sure all your watchers and listeners are nice
They
people.
are. They're very nice people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Jim, again for taking the time. It was awesome.
It was great. Thanks.
And that was episode 154 with Jim Wang from Wallet Hacks. Make sure to check him out at wallethacks.com or send him an email. I thought that was so cool that he actually here's my email, because for me being a blogger for so many years, I know bloggers in general hate to kind of give out their contact info, because you would not believe the crazy emails we get, the spam we get, the crap we get in our inboxes. But I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, email me whenever, jessica@jessicamorehouse.com, because I know within all of that crap that I get in my inbox trying to sell me, I don't know. I can't think of anything right now, but there's some outrageous stuff that comes to my inbox. A lot of stuff that's about there's some prince in Ethiopia and I'm related to him and all that kind of stuff. But then also just stuff that kind of seems like, is this legit? Is it not? But anyways, I'm getting off track. You can email Jim at wallethacks.com personally, because he probably will email you right back. And I think that's amazing and that's awesome. I've got a few things to share with you, so don't go away. Here's just a few words about this episode's sponsor. Track your hours, format the estimate, work out taxes, capture your expenses, chase that late payment, prepare the invoice, submit the proposal. Welcome to the worst part of being a freelancer, otherwise known as paperwork. The good news is that the good people at Freshbooks have created a ridiculously easy cloud accounting software for freelancers that turns tackling these time-sucking, never-ending tasks into no big thing. Send a polished invoice in 30 seconds, set yourself up to get paid online in 2 clicks, and manage your expenses by taking pictures of receipts from your phone. Oh, and if you need to whip up a quick proposal to land the gig, FreshBooks has you covered too. Now you can include an outline of your project, scope of work, and a timeline as part of your estimate. No more switching software, no more fussing over style and formatting, and most importantly, no more wasting your precious time. To find out all the ways FreshBooks will transform how you deal with your paperwork and to get a free 30-day trial, go to freshbooks.com/mo and enter Mo Money Podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Once again, that's freshbooks.com/mo and enter Mo Money Podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Okay, first, forgot to mention, of course, there's show notes for every episode. The episode number for this current episode is 154, so make sure to go to jessicamorehouse.com/154. And just quick rule of thumb, if you ever want to check out the show notes on any episode, well, you can see all of them very easily at jessicamorehouse.com/podcast, or just find out the episode number, which is always at the head of the title of the episode, and go jessicamorehouse.com/ whatever that number is. So there you go. So today, currently, when this episode is out, is April 11th. And what does that mean? That means we're only a few more weeks away from the tax deadline. I know, so exciting. So exciting. So if you are like me and you're self-employed, or if you have a side hustle on top of your day job and you're freaking out because you have no idea what the heck to do, I got you. What I would suggest to kind of maybe put you at ease is you can watch the replay of me and Lisa Zamparo's tax webinar. So this is really mainly for Canadians because we're Canadian and so we know about Canadian taxes. But there is actually a really good section at the beginning, the kind of first part of the webinar is about how to get organized for taxes. So that is kind of good for anybody to listen to. But if you're freaking out over taxes, highly recommend go to jessicamorehouse.com/tax webinar and sign up to watch the replay of our webinar. And hopefully that'll put your mind at ease, because believe me, I used to panic when it was tax time. And now I actually kind of look forward to it, because once you retain that information, once you know how to do it, how to file your taxes properly and what things to look out for in terms of deductions and credits and what all the lingo means, it's it really isn't that big of a deal. You're like, oh, that's it? That's not, why is everyone makes it so complicated? Because it's not complicated. Just like personal finance in general, personal finance is not complicated. Yes, there is, lingo and jargon and all that kind of stuff. But in general, once you really just take the time to educate yourself, which you are by listening to this podcast, you'll realize it's really not that bad. So so that is my little PSA on taxes and personal finance. So there you go. Okay, so I'm going to let you go, but I will be back here next week, next Wednesday, specifically with another episode. And that episode will be with Deacon Hayes from Well Kept Wallet. And we're going to be talking about debt and financial independence and all that good stuff. So if you're in the mood for that, look out for that next Wednesday. All right. Have a good rest of your day, y'all. I'll see you then.